The last year was a Taliban takeover, which was a tragedy for the country, a tragedy for democracies of the world, and a tragedy particularly for the educated, progressive class of Afghanistan. That was surprising for many of us who were following closely Afghanistan and all the political dynamics into it. We were predicting and a change, a system change, not a system change, a government change, but we were surprised by a complete takeover and a collapse of republic and replaced by a totalitarian system. That was surprising, and I think that marked as a tragedy for many Afghans who believe in the progressive society, democratic values, and an inclusive society.
It's really the fact that the authority of the Taliban has been so far maintained. When I look and watch it and think about it and follow it, it's clear that the Taliban leadership, as now constituted, and has been built up over the last year, it is very narrowly based. It is really still, in many ways, at the top level, quite isolated. It's much of it based in Kandahar. Its statements about policy decisions and so on are often not very clear, not very precise, and it does seem to be relying really very extensively on a sort of basic culture of obedience to the Shura. I mean, obviously, as we will discuss, things are much more complicated than that in many ways, but all the same, such a idiosyncratic form of leadership and government in such a challenged country and territory, it wouldn't have been surprising if really that authority had been very obviously undermined by now, given the fact that, of course, they weren't really expecting to win power in the way they did, and there was so much that was unexpected about the events of a year ago.
Over the last year, what surprised me the most is the indifference people have shown towards us. Not everyone. I mean, there are organizations and news channels and other people who've really tried to help us and have been keeping us afloat for the past year. But the majority of people seem to not care as much. And over the year, that has I've seen more and more people just telling me to, I guess, sort of come to peace with the Taliban, which I don't see how that's possible for me, since they've literally traumatized my people, killed millions of our people over the 20 years. How can I come to peace with a group of people who are extremists and have killed millions of children?
I will briefly state the things that were really surprising me. Number one, the opposite result of the Doha peace talks and the rise to power of a terrorist group in the country. And we have heard many times that the Taliban have changed, but unfortunately, there has been no change in the Taliban performance. Abandoning Afghanistan to a terrorist group by America and NATO, and the silence of the international community in front of all the crimes of the Taliban.
What's been surprising is that the war is evidently largely over. I mean, I know there's still challenges with security, and there's a resistance forming and bombings that have occurred. But in large part, this war is over. There used to be 100, 200 people dying a day from clashes, and that is no longer the case.
First is, of course, that Ayman al-Zawahiri, the emir of al-Qaeda, was found in a house in Kabul, not far from the presidential palace, the house that was controlled by the acting minister of interior of the Taliban regime. And all of this reflecting clearly a clear violation of the terms of the Doha Agreement, in which they pledged that they would not allow international extremists to have sanctuary in Afghanistan. That clearly has been violated, and our intelligence and counterterrorism forces very impressively brought him to justice some over a decade or so since he took over from Osama bin Laden. The second development is how slow the withdrawal of the Afghans who earned the right to a special immigrant visa for themselves and for their families has been from Afghanistan and from even Pakistan, to which many of them have fled.